The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Council's monitoring station like thunder in the void. Operator Zixtal's 4 eyes widened as the emergency signal flashed red across his screen. His tentacles moved quickly over the controls, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. "Commander Veltar, you need to see this," Zixtal called out, his voice shaking. Commander Veltar floated over to the station, her blue skin pale with worry. The Zelani had been running the monitoring station for over 30 years, and she had never heard such fear in her operator's voice. "What is it?" she asked, looking at the screen. "Distress signal from Vega Colony. It's bad, Commander." The signal crackled through the speakers, filled with static and screams. A human voice came through, desperate and breaking. "This is Vega Colony to any station. We are under attack. They came from nowhere. Our shields are down. They're taking people. Oh God, they're taking the children." Veltar felt her blood run cold. Vega Colony was one of humanity's outer settlements. It housed over 50,000 humans, mostly families and miners. The voice continued, now barely a whisper. "They're not just killing us. They're doing something worse, taking us alive. Experimenting. We can hear the screams from the biolabs they set up." Static filled the air for a moment. Then the voice came back, clearer now, as if the speaker had found new strength. "If anyone receives this, tell Earth. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the hegemony came for us and thank the void we got the beacon out. The humans are coming. God help us all, the humans are coming." The signal cut to nothing. Veltar stared at the screen in horror. In all her years of service, she had never heard a distress call quite like that. But what worried her most were those final words. "The humans are coming." Zixtal, confirm the signal's origin and timestamp, she ordered. Signal came from Vega Colony, Outer Rim Sector 7. Timestamp shows it was sent 47 hours ago. 47 hours. That meant the humans had already received it. Veltar's hands began to shake as she thought about what that meant. The Galactic Council had worked for decades to keep humanity contained. They had signed trade agreements, created buffer zones, and used every diplomatic trick they knew to keep the humans peaceful. Not because humans were weak, but because they were terrifying. Humans came from Sol 3, a death world that should never have produced intelligent life. Their planet tried to kill them every day with storms, earthquakes, deadly animals, and diseases that would wipe out most species. Instead of dying, humans adapted. They became the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever seen. Other species had evolved on peaceful worlds. They developed technology through cooperation and trade. Humans developed technology through war. Every human invention had been tested in battle against other humans first, then improved until it could kill more efficiently. The Council had seen human military reports. They knew about human history. Hundreds of wars. Weapons that could destroy entire planets and soldiers who refused to surrender even when facing certain death. The Council's greatest fear was not that humans would attack them, but that something would give humans a reason to fight. Now, something had attacked human civilians. Something had hurt human children. Veltar activated the emergency communication system. "This is Monitoring Station Alpha to Galactic Council Headquarters. Priority 1 message. We have a situation." The hologram of Council Leader Morden appeared within seconds. The ancient being's many eyes focused on Veltar with concern. "What is the nature of this emergency?" Morden asked. "Sir, we have received a distress signal from Vega Colony. The settlement has been attacked by an unknown force calling itself the Hegemony. The entire colony appears to have been destroyed or captured." Morden's eyes dimmed with sadness. "That is tragic, but hardly unprecedented. Pirates and raiders attack outer colonies regularly. Sir, there's more. The attackers appear to have been conducting biological experiments on the human population, and—" Veltar paused, knowing how her next words would sound. "The humans have been notified." The silence that followed was deafening. Morden's eyes widened as the full meaning hit him. "Are you telling me that humanity has been given cause for war?" "Yes, sir." The beacon was activated. By now, every human ship in the sector knows what happened at Vega Colony. Morden closed his eyes and seemed to age 100 years in that moment. "How long do we have?" "Unknown, sir." "Human response times are faster than other species." That was an understatement. Most species took weeks or months to organize military responses. Humans could have ships moving within hours. They had spent centuries preparing for war, and their entire society could switch from peaceful trade to total warfare in the time it took other species to call a committee meeting. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought Indomitable. She was reading the message from Vega Colony for the third time, her jaw set in a hard line. "Admiral, all ships are reporting ready," said her aide. "Commander Martinez, how many ships do we have available for immediate deployment?" Chen asked. 67 warships of various classes. The Merchant Marine has volunteered another 200 vessels for support roles. Mining ships, cargo haulers, even passenger liners. Everyone wants to help, Chen nodded. This was how humans responded to threats against their own. Every human in the system wanted to be part of the rescue mission. Shop owners were donating supplies. Factory workers were pulling extra shifts to build ammunition. Children were writing letters to send to the fleet. What about the outer colonies? They're all sending what they can. New Terra is providing their entire patrol fleet. Mars Defense Force is mobilizing. Even the belt miners are converting their rock haulers into missile platforms. Chen looked out at space where the fleet was gathering. Ships of all sizes and types were taking position, their crews ready for war. She had seen human fleets before, but never one assembled for such a purpose. This was not a police action or a show of force. This was vengeance. "Admiral, we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council," Martinez reported. "Let me guess. They want us to stand down and let them handle it through diplomatic channels." "Yes, ma'am. They're saying that military action would be a violation of the Outer Rim Accords." Chen laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Tell the Council that diplomacy was tried at Vega Colony. We're going to deliver humanity's reply in person." She turned to face the bridge crew. Every human there had the same look in their eyes. They had all read the reports from Vega Colony. They knew what had been done to human families, human children. Set course for Vega Colony, maximum burn, and send a message to all ships in the fleet. "What should the message say, Admiral?" Chen looked out at the growing armada. Ships representing every part of human space united in common purpose. When humans decided to go to war, they did not do it halfway. Tell them that someone made the mistake of attacking human civilians. Tell them that someone thought humans were just another weak species to be harvested and experimented on. Tell them that we're going to educate the galaxy about what happens when you hurt human children. She paused, thinking about the families at Vega Colony, the children who had called for help, and tell them that the Deathworlders are coming. The fleet began to move, 67 warships and 200 support vessels, the largest human military force ever assembled. Behind them, factories worked around the clock building more ships, more weapons, more ammunition. The sleeping giant had awakened, and the galaxy was about to learn why humans were called Deathworlders. In the deep void between stars, something ancient and hungry felt the ships moving and laughed. The hegemony had conquered 17 star systems. They had harvested millions of beings for their biolaboratories. They had never met a species they could not break. They were about to learn the difference between prey and predator. The message spread through human space like wildfire. From the inner colonies to the frontier worlds, every human settlement received the same transmission. Vega Colony was gone, and the fleet was mobilizing. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the cargo bay of her stealth frigate, Silent Hunter, watching her crew load supplies with grim efficiency. The ship was not built for war, but like every human vessel, it could be converted quickly when needed. "Captain, we've got volunteers from 3 different cargo ships wanting to join the mission," reported her first officer. "Lieutenant Park, what kind of volunteers?" Vasquez asked. "Mostly miners and traders. They're offering to retrofit their ships with whatever weapons they can find. One cargo hauler captain says he can mount missile launchers where his loading bays used to be." Vasquez nodded. This was typical human behavior. When threatened, humans did not run or hide behind their military. Every civilian wanted to fight. It was a trait that had helped them survive on their deadly home world, and it made them terrifying opponents in space. Tell them they can join the supply convoy, but they stay behind the battle line unless ordered otherwise. We can't have untrained crews getting in the way of military operations. Across human space, similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. On New Terra, the colonial government opened their military stockpiles to any ship captain willing to join the rescue mission. Factory workers volunteered for extra shifts, producing ammunition and spare parts. Even children helped, packing supply boxes and writing messages of support for the fleet crews. But it was not just the military response that would have shocked alien observers. It was the speed and coordination of human society transforming itself for war. On Mars, mining companies retooled their equipment to produce military-grade electronics. Agricultural colonies shifted their food production to military rations. Asteroid miners began converting their rock-cutting lasers into ship-mounted weapons. The Galactic Council's observers watched in growing alarm as humanity's true nature revealed itself. What they had thought was a simple trading civilization was actually something far more dangerous, a species that had never stopped preparing for war. Ambassador Veltar studied the intelligence reports in her office aboard the Council monitoring station. Each report made her more worried than the last. "Commander, you need to see this," said her aide, bringing another data pad. "What is it now?" Veltar asked, though she was not sure she wanted to know. Human ship construction. In the past 48 hours since the Vega colony distress call, they have begun converting civilian vessels at a rate we've never seen before. Cargo ships are being fitted with weapons. Passenger liners are being converted into troop transports. Even their smallest courier ships are being armed. Veltar read the report with growing dread. How many ships are we talking about? Conservative estimate? Over 2,000 vessels of various sizes. And that's just what we can detect. Intelligence suggests they have many more ships in hidden staging areas. 2,000 ships. Most species needed months to assemble a dozen warships for major operations. Humans had mobilized an entire armada in 2 days. What about their industrial capacity? That's the truly frightening part, Commander. Every human world is now operating on what they call total war economy. Factories that produced consumer goods yesterday are making weapons today. Shipyards that built mining equipment are now constructing military hardware. Veltar set down the report and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an unknown force called the hegemony was about to face something no species in the galaxy had ever confronted. Humans with a legitimate reason for war. The Council had spent decades studying human history, trying to understand how such a violent species had developed space travel. The answer was both simple and terrifying. Humans had never stopped fighting. Even their space colonization was driven by military competition between different human nations. Their ships were built to survive in space battles. Their colonies were designed to withstand sieges. Their entire civilization was organized around the principle that war was always possible, and preparation for war was the price of survival. Now something had attacked human children, and the galaxy was about to learn why that was the worst possible mistake. Admiral Chen stood in the war room of the Indomitable, surrounded by holographic displays showing the gathering fleet. Ship after ship reported ready for departure, their crews eager for the mission ahead. "Admiral, final count shows 67 military vessels and 234 civilian ships volunteering for support roles," reported Commander Martinez. "What's our total firepower estimate?" "Main battle fleet carries enough nuclear warheads to sterilize a planet. The converted civilian ships add another 1,000 missile launchers, plus improvised kinetic weapons, and that's not counting the mining ships with their industrial cutting lasers." Chen studied the display, watching more ships arrive every hour. Each one represented families and communities that had heard about Vega Colony and decided to act. It was the kind of response that made humans unique in the galaxy. Other species had professional militaries that fought while civilians stayed safe. Humans had never developed that separation. Every human was a potential soldier. Every civilian ship was a potential warship. Every colony was a potential military base. What about intelligence on this hegemony? That's where it gets interesting, Admiral. We've cross-referenced the name with Galactic Council databases. They're listed as a minor threat, responsible for raids on 3 systems over the past 50 years. Council reports describe them as using biological technology and taking prisoners for unknown purposes. Biological technology? Living ships that can adapt to different weapons. Warriors that are genetically modified for combat. Their entire military doctrine is based on evolutionary adaptation rather than technological development. Chen frowned as she studied the data. Adaptive biological technology was dangerous because it could evolve defenses against standard energy weapons. Most galactic species used similar weapon types, so the hegemony had probably developed effective counters. But humans did not use standard galactic weapons. Human military doctrine had developed from centuries of warfare against other humans, using whatever materials and methods were most effective. They had weapons the galaxy had never seen, tactics no other species would consider. How long until we reach Vega Colony? At maximum burn, 72 hours. But Admiral, we're receiving priority communications from the Galactic Council. They're demanding we stand down and allow them to handle the situation through diplomatic channels. Chen looked at the message display, reading the formal language and bureaucratic procedures the Council wanted to follow. Committees would be formed. Negotiations would be attempted. Months would pass while human prisoners suffered in hegemony biolaboratories. Send a reply to the Council, she ordered. What should I tell them? Tell them that humanity appreciates their concern. But we have our own procedures for dealing with attacks on human civilians. Tell them that diplomacy failed at Vega Colony, and we're going to try a more direct approach. She paused, thinking about the children who had been taken, the families who were probably still alive somewhere in hegemony ships, waiting for rescue or death, and tell them that anyone who wants to study human military doctrine is welcome to observe from a safe distance. They're about to get a very educational demonstration. The fleet began its final preparations for departure. Weapons were loaded, systems checked, crew briefings completed. In 72 hours, they would reach Vega Colony and whatever remained of the settlement, but more importantly, they would meet the hegemony face to face. The alien species that thought humans were just another prey species to be harvested and experimented on. Captain Vasquez completed her final systems check and took her position on the bridge of Silent Hunter. As the fleet's scout ship, she would be first to encounter whatever waited at Vega Colony. All ships report ready for departure, announced the fleet communications officer. Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication system, addressing the entire armada. To all ships of the rescue fleet, we go today to bring our people home and to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens human children. Fight with honor, fight with courage, and remember that every human in known space is counting on us. The fleet moved out, hundreds of ships accelerating toward the outer rim. Behind them, more ships were being built, more weapons manufactured, more volunteers preparing to join the fight. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. An entire civilization mobilizing for war, not for conquest or territory, but for the simple principle that human families would be protected, no matter the cost. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the hegemony waited. Confident in their biological superiority and adaptive technology, they had no idea that they were about to face something their evolution had never prepared them for. The fury of a species that had learned to fight on a world that tried to kill them every day. The hegemony bioship Devourer drifted through the outer system, its living hull pulsing with organic rhythms. Inside its neural chambers, the collective consciousness of the hegemony reviewed their latest conquest. Vega Colony had been more satisfying than usual. The humans had fought harder than most species, but in the end they had fallen like all the others. Now their biolaboratories were filled with fresh subjects, human genetics ready for harvesting and experimentation. Shipmind Cathara reviewed the data streams from the feeding chambers. Human biology was fascinating. They had stronger bones than most species, more efficient healing systems, and brains that continued functioning even under extreme stress. The experiments were producing excellent results. Alert stimulus detected pulsed through the ship's nervous system. Unknown vessels approaching outer perimeter. Cathara focused its attention on the sensor feeds. 3 small ships, design unknown, moving at high speed toward their position. The ships were using some kind of stealth technology, but nothing that could hide from hegemony biosensors. Vessel classification? Cathara queried. Unknown. Design elements suggest human construction. Minimal threat assessment. Cathara felt a ripple of amusement through the collective consciousness. More humans coming to attempt a rescue of their colony. They would make fine additions to the experimental stock. Deploy interceptor forms. Capture if possible. Destroy if necessary. Captain Elena Vasquez watched her tactical display as 3 organic shapes detached from the larger bioship ahead. The hegemony interceptors looked like living things, all curves and flowing lines, moving through space with an organic grace no metal ship could match. Contact, reported her weapons officer. 3 bogies incoming, speed increasing. They're not using conventional engines. Confirmed, said Vasquez. Intelligence was right about biological technology. Prepare evasive maneuvers and ready all weapons. The Silent Hunter was not built for direct combat, but like all human ships, It carried enough firepower to defend itself. Laser cannons, kinetic projectiles, and a small complement of nuclear-tipped missiles. Captain, the bogies are accelerating beyond anything in our database. How are living ships moving that fast? Same way sharks swim faster than metal submarines, Vasquez replied. Evolution is a hell of an engineer. Let's see how well their evolution handles human weapons. The first interceptor came within range and opened fire. Streams of acidic plasma shot toward the silent hunter. Weapons grown rather than built. Biological perfection refined over millions of years of galactic conquest. Evasive maneuvers. Vasquez ordered. Return fire with laser batteries. The human lasers struck the interceptor's hull, and for a moment the alien ship seemed to falter. Then its bioarmor began to shift and change, adapting to the energy frequency of the laser. Within seconds, the same weapons that had damaged it before were having no effect. Captain, the enemy ship is adapting to our laser fire. Damage assessment shows minimal effect. Fascinating, Vasquez muttered. Switched to kinetic projectiles. The silent hunter's railguns opened fire, sending solid metal slugs at significant fractions of light speed. The interceptor's bioarmor tried to adapt, but kinetic energy was kinetic energy. The slugs punched through its hull, causing obvious damage. But again, the alien ship began to change. Its bioarmor thickened, developed new structures to absorb and deflect kinetic impacts. Within minutes, even the railgun fire was having reduced effect. Captain, it's adapting to the kinetic weapons too. How is that possible? Because it's alive, Vasquez realized. It's literally evolving defenses in real time. But evolution takes time, and it can only adapt to what it's experienced before. She turned to her weapons officer with a smile that would have made any alien observer very nervous. Fire 1 nuclear missile. Low yield. Proximity detonation. The missile streaked toward the interceptor, which tried to adapt its defenses for another kinetic impact. Instead, it found itself at the center of a nuclear fireball. The bioship's scream was audible even through the vacuum of space, a sound that seemed to come from the ship's very soul. When the explosion faded, the interceptor was gone. Nuclear weapons, Vasquez said with satisfaction. Try to evolve a defense against the fundamental forces of physics. The other two interceptors had witnessed their companion's destruction, and their bioarmor was already trying to adapt. But adaptation required understanding, and the alien ships had no framework for comprehending atomic weapons. The silent hunter's second missile eliminated another interceptor. The third tried to retreat, but human missiles were faster than biological reflexes. Back on the Devourer, ship-mind Cathara experienced something it had never felt before: confusion. The interceptors had been destroyed by weapons that made no sense. Energy releases beyond anything in the hegemony's experience, creating damage that could not be adapted to or healed. Analysis of enemy weapons? Cathara demanded. Unknown technology. Energy release suggests controlled fusion reactions. Threat assessment? Extreme. Controlled fusion reactions. The humans were using stellar fire as weapons. What kind of species weaponized the power of stars? Alert all vessels in the system. Prepare for full defensive measures, and send a message to the hegemony home fleet. We may need additional resources. For the first time in the hegemony's 1,000-year expansion, one of their ship minds felt something like fear. Captain Vasquez received the tactical data from her encounter and immediately transmitted it to Admiral Chen's fleet. The information was both encouraging and worrying. Encouraging because human weapons could damage hegemony ships. Worrying because those same ships could adapt to any weapon they survived. The key was making sure they did not survive. Silent Hunter to Fleet Command. First contact complete. Enemy vessels destroyed. Transmitting tactical data. Admiral Chen reviewed the battle report from her command ship, the Indomitable. Around her, the massive human fleet continued its approach to Vega Colony, now knowing exactly what they would face. Analysis confirms Captain Vasquez's assessment, reported Commander Martinez. Hegemony bioships can adapt to energy weapons and kinetic projectiles given time and survival. Nuclear weapons appear to cause too much damage too quickly for adaptation to occur. How many nuclear warheads do we have in the fleet? Counting all ships, approximately 2,000 nuclear missiles of various yields, plus another 500 nuclear warheads that can be delivered by other means. Chen nodded grimly. Most galactic species avoided nuclear weapons, considering them too destructive and primitive. They preferred clean energy weapons that could disable enemies without causing massive collateral damage. Humans had no such qualms. They had invented nuclear weapons to use against other humans, and they had spent centuries perfecting them. When facing an enemy that could adapt to conventional weapons, nuclear fire was the obvious solution. Order all ships to arm nuclear weapons and prepare for combat. Standard engagement protocol is suspended. We go in heavy and we go in fast. Admiral, the Galactic Council is sending another message. They're demanding we stand down and allow them to negotiate with the hegemony. Chen looked at the message display, reading the formal diplomatic language. The Council still thought this was a normal conflict that could be resolved through talking and compromise. They did not understand that humans did not negotiate with species that experimented on human children. Send a reply to the Council. Tell them that first contact protocols have been observed. We made contact with hegemony ships and they attempted to destroy our vessels without provocation. Under galactic law, we are now authorized to defend ourselves. And tell them that anyone who objects to our methods is welcome to explain their position to the families of Vega Colony. Assuming we can find enough pieces of those families to have a conversation. The fleet accelerated toward the Vega system, their nuclear arsenals armed and ready. Behind them, Captain Vasquez continued her scouting mission, mapping hegemony positions and capabilities. What she found in the outer system made her blood run cold. Not one bioship, but dozens of them. And worse, she could detect human life signs aboard several vessels. The prisoners from Vega Colony were still alive, trapped in alien biolaboratories while experiments were conducted on their bodies and minds. Silent Hunter to Fleet Command. Prisoners confirmed alive on multiple enemy vessels. Request permission to transmit targeting data for precision strikes. Permission granted, Captain. And Captain, make sure every one of those bioships knows we're coming. I want them to have time to think about what they've done before we arrive. Vasquez smiled grimly and began broadcasting on all frequencies, sending a message that every hegemony ship in the system would receive. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Human Space Navy. You have attacked human civilians and taken prisoners from Vega Colony. You have 72 hours to release all human prisoners and surrender your vessels. If you do not comply, we will demonstrate why humans are called Deathworlders. In the bioships scattered throughout the system, alien minds struggled to understand the message. Most had never heard of humans before Vega Colony. None of them understood what a Deathworlder was. They were about to learn. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vega system, like an avalanche of metal and fury. 267 ships of various sizes and configurations, all bristling with weapons and carrying crews who had come to bring their people home. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the tactical display populate with enemy contacts. Dozens of hegemony bioships scattered throughout the system, some as large as space stations, others small and quick like the interceptors that had attacked Captain Vasquez. Fleet deployment complete, reported Commander Martinez. All ships report ready for combat operations. Enemy response? They're moving to intercept, but slowly. Their bioships don't seem built for rapid formation changes. Chen studied the enemy positions with a tactician's eye. The hegemony had arranged their ships in a defensive pattern around Vega Colony, clearly expecting a conventional attack. They had positioned their largest vessels to provide overlapping fields of fire, with smaller ships ready to respond to threats. It was a formation that would have been effective against any other galactic species. Unfortunately for the hegemony, they were not facing any other galactic species. Signaled the fleet. Execute Plan Omega. Plan Omega was not in any human military manual. It was a tactic that had been developed specifically for this mission, based on what humans did best. Aggressive close combat supported by overwhelming firepower. Instead of the long-range energy duels favored by most galactic militaries, the human fleet accelerated directly toward the enemy formation. Their ships were built to withstand punishment and deliver it at point-blank range, using their superior engine technology and gravity tolerance to get inside the enemy's optimal firing solutions. The hegemony ships opened fire first, streams of acidic plasma and bioenergy weapons reaching out across space. The attack splashed against human armor and shields, causing damage but nothing critical. Human ships were built to fight other human ships, and human weapons were designed to punch through human defenses. Compared to that standard, alien bioweapons seemed almost gentle. The human response was not gentle. All ships, free fire authorization. Nuclear weapons are cleared for use. Repeat, Nuclear weapons are cleared for use. The first wave of human nuclear missiles streaked across space like falling stars. The hegemony bioships tried to intercept them with point defense systems, organic weapons that could adapt to incoming threats. But nuclear missiles moved too fast and exploded too powerfully for adaptation to be effective. The first bioship to take a direct nuclear hit simply ceased to exist. One moment it was a living vessel pulsing with organic energy. The next it was an expanding cloud of superheated particles. Its death scream echoed across all frequencies, a sound of pain and terror that made even human crews pause for a moment. Ship-mind Cathara felt the death of its companion like a physical blow. In the 1,000 years of hegemony expansion, they had never lost a ship mind in combat. Their biotechnology was superior to anything they had encountered. Their adaptive capabilities made them nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. But these nuclear weapons were not conventional. They were stellar fire contained in metal shells, unleashing the power of stars against living flesh. No amount of adaptation could defend against such force. Emergency protocols, Cathara transmitted to all vessels. Scatter formation. Avoid direct engagement. Focus on preservation of experimental subjects. But the humans were not cooperating with hegemony survival strategies. Instead of maintaining long-range combat, the human ships accelerated into knife-fighting distance, using their superior speed and maneuverability to close with bioships that had never been designed for close combat. The human destroyer, Relentless, closed with a hegemony cruiser equivalent, taking plasma hits that would have crippled most galactic vessels. Instead of retreating, the human ship returned fire with its full nuclear arsenal at point-blank range. The bioship's scream was cut short as nuclear fire consumed it from within. But the Relentless was not finished. Its crew detected human life signs aboard a nearby hegemony vessel and moved to engage, despite damage that should have forced them to withdraw. This was the Deathworld doctrine in action. Humans did not fight to win territory or resources. They fought to protect their families, and they would sacrifice anything to achieve that goal. Ships, lives, entire fleets were expendable if it meant bringing human prisoners home. Captain Vasquez piloted the Silent Hunter through the chaos of battle, her stealth systems allowing her to get close to hegemony ships without being detected. Her mission was not to engage in direct combat, but to locate and extract human prisoners before the main battle destroyed everything in the system. Captain, I'm detecting human life signs aboard the bioship at coordinates 77 Alpha, reported her sensor operator. Approximately 40 individuals, all showing signs of medical distress. What kind of medical distress? Unknown, but the readings suggest ongoing biological experimentation. They're alive, but they won't be for long if we don't get them out of there. Vasquez felt a cold anger settle in her stomach. The hegemony was not just taking prisoners. They were using human beings for biological research, treating them like laboratory animals. Plot an intercept course. Signal the Indomitable that we're attempting prisoner extraction. The Silent Hunter approached the hegemony bioship, its stealth systems hiding it from the alien sensors. But as they got closer, Vasquez could see the true horror of what they were facing. The bioship was not just alive. It was feeding. Organic tubes connected it to smaller vessels, transferring biological material between them. The ship was literally consuming its prisoners, breaking down their genetic material for analysis and reconstruction. My God, whispered her first officer. They're not experimenting on our people. They're eating them. Not if I can help it, Vasquez replied grimly. Prepare boarding torpedoes. We're going in. Human boarding actions were legendary among galactic military historians, mostly because no other species was insane enough to attempt them. The idea of deliberately breaching an enemy ship and fighting hand-to-hand in a hostile environment was considered so dangerous that most species had banned the YE practice. Humans had never banned anything that might be tactically useful. The Silent Hunters' boarding torpedoes punched through the bioship's hull, carrying assault teams directly into the alien vessel. What they found inside defied description. The ship was not just alive. It was aware. Its walls pulsed with neural activity. Its corridors were lined with sensory organs, and its chambers were filled with biological horror beyond imagination. Human prisoners hung suspended in organic pods, their bodies connected to feeding tubes that were slowly draining their life force. Some had already been partially consumed, their genetic material absorbed into the ship's biological matrix. Sergeant Maria Santos led the assault team through the ship's nervous system, following her scanner readings toward the prisoner holding areas. The bioship fought back, using its own immune system against the human invaders. Organic antibodies tried to dissolve their armor. Neural attacks attempted to overwhelm their minds, but humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. They had developed immune systems that could handle biological warfare, and minds that could function under extreme stress. The bioship's defenses were designed for species that had evolved on peaceful worlds. They were useless against Deathworlders. Prisoners located, Santos reported. Beginning extraction procedures. The rescue operation was brutal and efficient. Human soldiers cut through organic restraints with plasma torches, severed feeding tubes with monomolecular blades, and carried unconscious prisoners through corridors that were literally trying to digest them. Some prisoners were already dead, their bodies too damaged by the feeding process to survive. Others were alive but changed, their genetic structure altered by the ship's biological experimentation. All of them had been subjected to horrors that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. But they were human, and that meant other humans would come for them, no matter the cost. Extraction complete, Santos reported. 43 prisoners recovered, 7 confirmed dead. Recommend immediate medical evacuation. Acknowledged, replied Vasquez. Prepare for departure. And, Sergeant? Set charges throughout the ship. I want to make sure this thing never hurts anyone again. The silent hunter withdrew from the dying bioship, just as its nuclear charges detonated. The alien vessel's death scream was louder than anything they had heard before, a sound of pure agony that seemed to come from the ship's very soul. Across the system, the battle continued. Human ships pressed their attacks with ruthless efficiency, using their nuclear arsenals to destroy bioships faster than they could adapt. The hegemony's evolutionary advantages meant nothing against weapons that killed too quickly for evolution to respond. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as enemy contacts disappeared one by one. The hegemony was learning what every human child knew. Evolution was slow, but nuclear fire was fast. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the surviving hegemony ships, reported Martinez. They're requesting negotiations. Tell them we don't negotiate with species that experiment on human children, Chen replied. Tell them they have one choice, surrender unconditionally, or join their friends in whatever hell awaits them. The battle for the last hegemony bioship died in nuclear fire, its organic hull dissolving into component atoms as fusion warheads tore through its living structure. Ship mind Cathara's final thoughts were of disbelief. In 1,000 years of conquest, the hegemony had never faced anything like the fury of Earth's children. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the tactical display as the final enemy contact disappeared. Around her, the human fleet maintained battle formation, their weapons still hot and ready. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Casualty report, she ordered. 14 ships damaged, 3 requiring major repairs. Human casualties, 47 dead, 136 wounded. Enemy casualties, total destruction of all hostile vessels in the system. The numbers were remarkably light for such a massive engagement. Human military doctrine emphasized overwhelming firepower and rapid resolution of conflicts. Better to end a war quickly with massive force than let it drag on with higher casualties. What about prisoner recovery? Captain Vasquez reports successful extraction of 43 survivors from Vega Colony. Medical teams are treating them now, but Commander Martinez paused, clearly struggling with what he had to report. But what? The hegemony was conducting biological experiments on the prisoners. Some of the survivors have been genetically modified. Others show signs of psychological trauma that may be permanent. And Admiral, we recovered 17 children. The youngest was 6 years old. Chen felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. She had seen the reports from the boarding teams, read the descriptions of the hegemony bioships and their feeding chambers. But hearing that children had been subjected to such horrors made her decision very simple. Signal the fleet. We're not going home yet. Admiral, the hegemony attacked human civilians. They experimented on human children. They turned living beings into laboratory specimens. Chen turned to face her bridge crew, and every human there saw the same cold determination in her eyes. We're going to find every hegemony ship, base, and colony in this sector. We're going to destroy them all. And we're going to make sure that no species in the galaxy, ever again makes the mistake of thinking humans are easy prey. The message went out to every ship in the fleet, and the response was immediate and unanimous. Not a single captain requested permission to return home. Not one crew member objected to extending the mission. Every human in the fleet had seen the rescued prisoners, had heard the reports from the bioships. The hegemony had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Light years away, in the deep void between stars, the hegemony collective consciousness felt the death of its entire advance fleet. For the first time in their species' existence, they experienced something they had no name for: fear. The humans had not just defeated them. They had destroyed them so completely that not a single bioship had survived to report detailed tactical information. All the collective knew was that their most advanced vessels had been eliminated by weapons that defied understanding. High Mind Zathara, eldest of the hegemony ship minds, called an emergency gathering of the collective consciousness. Representatives from 17 conquered star systems merged their thoughts into a single decision-making entity. The human threat must be evaluated. Zathara pulsed through the bio-neural network. Analysis indicates weapons technology beyond our adaptation capabilities. Impossible, responded shipmind Vikaloth from the 3rd Conquest Fleet. No species has developed weapons we cannot adapt to. Evolution is the ultimate defense. Evolution requires survival, Thara replied coldly. Our advance fleet did not survive long enough to adapt. The humans use stellar fire as weapons. They weaponize the fusion reactions that power stars. The collective consciousness rippled with disbelief. What kind of species would think to use stellar physics as military technology? What kind of minds would even conceive such weapons? Analysis of human civilization reveals troubling patterns, continued Zathara. They evolved on a death world that attempted to kill them daily. Their entire technological development was driven by warfare against their own species. They have been preparing for galactic war for centuries without realizing it. Recommendation? Queried the collective. Avoid human space. Classify their species as apex predators. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary, but it was too late for avoidance. The humans were no longer waiting to be attacked. Captain Vasquez piloted the Silent Hunter through hyperspace, leading a task force of 30 ships toward the hegemony's nearest known base. Intelligence gathered from the bioship's organic computers had revealed the location of their regional command center. The facility was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, its biotechnology converting raw rock into living space for the collective consciousness. It housed over 10,000 hegemony entities and served as the coordination center for their expansion into this sector of the galaxy. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the asteroid base, reported her communications officer. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything in human experience. It was composed of multiple overlapping tones as if hundreds of beings were speaking in unison. Human vessels. We are the Hegemony Collective. We offer negotiations for mutual benefit. Your species shows potential for biological integration. Join us willingly, and we will preserve your genetic essence. Vasquez looked at her crew, seeing the same expression on every face. They had all seen the rescued prisoners from Vega Colony. They knew what biological integration meant. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Human Space Navy. We received your message. Here's our reply. She nodded to her weapons officer, who fired a single nuclear torpedo at the asteroid base. The warhead detonated against the facility's bioarmor, creating a brief star in the darkness of space. That was for the children of Vega Colony, Vasquez announced over the communication channel. The next one is for their parents. The second torpedo eliminated what remained of the base. 10,000 hegemony entities died in nuclear fire, their collective consciousness screaming across subspace frequencies as their bio-neural network collapsed. Word of the attack spread through hegemony space faster than light, carried by their bio-communication network. For the first time in their species' history, the collective consciousness experienced something that made their evolutionary algorithms freeze in terror. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were hunting. Admiral Chen received the report from Captain Vasquez while planning the next phase of operations. Intelligence had identified 17 hegemony facilities within 100 light-years of human space. Research stations, breeding colonies, and command centers that coordinated their expansion into this region of the galaxy. Every single facility was now a target. Admiral, we're receiving communications from the Galactic Council. reported Commander Martinez. They're demanding an immediate ceasefire and withdrawal of human forces. What's their specific objection? They claim we're violating the Outer Rim Accords by conducting military operations without Council approval. They're threatening economic sanctions if we don't comply. Chen read the Council's message with growing amusement. They were still thinking in terms of normal galactic politics, where wars were fought over trade routes and territory. They did not understand that humans were not fighting for profit or expansion. They were fighting for the principle that human children would never again be subjected to biological experimentation. Send a reply to the Council, Chen ordered. Tell them that humanity acknowledges their concerns and appreciates their input. Tell them that we will be happy to discuss our operations after we have eliminated every hegemony facility that might threaten human civilians. And Admiral, tell them that anyone who objects to our methods is welcome to explain their position to the survivors of Vega Colony. I'm sure they would be interested in hearing about proper diplomatic procedures. The human fleet continued its systematic destruction of hegemony assets, moving from system to system with methodical efficiency. They did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They did not accept surrender. Every bioship, every facility, every trace of hegemony presence in the sector was eliminated with nuclear fire. The galaxy watched in fascination and horror as humanity demonstrated what happened when a Deathworld species decided to go to war. Other races had militaries that fought when ordered. Humans had an entire civilization that would mobilize to protect their families. The Galactic Council's protests became increasingly desperate as human forces moved deeper into former hegemony territory. Economic sanctions meant nothing to a species that could convert their entire industrial capacity to military production in a matter of days. Diplomatic pressure was useless against beings who had survived on a world that tried to kill them every day. 6 months after the attack on Vega Colony, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the last known hegemony facility die in nuclear fire. The collective consciousness that had terrorized 17 star systems was gone, eliminated so completely that even their biocommunication network had fallen silent. That's the last of them, Admiral, reported Martinez. All known.